What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Time for the first tech-related video of the year, talking about what to expect with the iPhone SE 4. Now, I have made a few tech-related videos like this before here on the channel. You know, last year I talked about the iPhone 16 lineup and how much of a disappointment it was. Tons of negative feedback, which I obviously expected from a bunch of Apple fanboys out there. However, this one isn't going to be negative towards Apple like the last time around. If anything, this actually might be the exact opposite, and this is something that I am actually looking forward to as someone who loves smartphones, loves tech in general, and has one of the latest iPhones, and by latest, I mean the one that has Apple Intelligence. So obviously, this is not the first tech video that I've made, and I'm planning on making more of these in the future. Looking forward to talking about the NVIDIA graphics card, the Nintendo Switch 2, the Galaxy S25, amongst other things. But again, those videos are already backlogged and planned. Don't know when I'm going to be talking about those. Knowing how psychotic this news cycle has been, believe me, it's a fucking roller coaster. So finally, now at least I have enough time to talk about the iPhone SE 4. You know, there's been hundreds of leaks, hundreds of rumors, and hundreds of, speculation of what this device will be called. I mean, there's one report that it's just going to be called the iPhone SE. Some people are calling it the iPhone SE 4, although highly doubt that that's actually going to be the name. I think I also heard, if I remember correctly, one report saying that the iPhone SE 4 is going to be referred to as the iPhone 16e, which I don't think makes any goddamn sense whatsoever. Now, I might not be, the biggest super fan of the current generation iPhone 16, citing my previous video on it, at least compared to the 15 lineup, especially the Pros. The one thing I do like to commend Apple for is their iPhone SE lineup. You know, obviously, despite being one of the more entry-level devices, it's actually one of the best devices in the iPhone lineup, just because it's the best value and the best bang for your buck. If Apple can make a cheaper iPhone without necessarily being cheap, they can actually do pretty well, and they have done pretty well in doing that. You know, when they first announced the OG iPhone SE back in 2016, despite literally being just the same as the iPhone 6S, it was actually a pretty decent phone and was fairly successful. It was essentially an iPhone 6S in the body of an iPhone 5S, and at the same time, it was much cheaper than the 6S. The 6S lineup was the top of the line back in that time. It had a 12 megapixel camera capable of shooting 4K video compared to the 5S 8 megapixel camera that only shot 1080p, so obviously big hump there. It can do Apple Pay. It had a rose gold color that came with the iPhone 6S. The 5S did not have that, and it still had a headphone jack. This was already months before the iPhone 7 lineup, where Apple infamously took away the audio jack from their phones, and people complained and were bashing its removal, and everybody got completely disgruntled about it. Apple, in response, cited courage.
I'm going to give you three of them, but it really comes down to one word: courage. The courage to move on, do something new that betters all of us. And our team has tremendous courage.
The next iPhone SE that came out 4 years later had the exact same design as the iPhone 7, but with the addition of a glass back, allowing for wireless charging, along with the same specs as the iPhone 11 lineup at the time. Now, 5G was not included since that was reserved for the iPhone 12 lineup, but despite a lot of compromises to dial down the cost a bit, the iPhone SE lineup is still one of the best values that you can possibly imagine, and has been proven to be moderately popular for what it's worth. You know, the first one that came out sold pretty well, the second one also sold pretty well, and I recommended it to a lot of people when it first came out. Third one wasn't necessarily too interesting. It was more or less a minor refresh, if anything. Now, this phone has not been updated since, I believe, 2022, and it didn't even get a major redesign. It was essentially the same design as the last generation. You know, home button, no Face ID, none of that shit. I don't think it even had MagSafe, which most iPhones do. There's still a lot of stuff that even current iPhones have that are not present on the iPhone SE and have yet to come on it. Like for instance, the OLED screens, Face ID, 5G, Apple Intelligence, obviously. So thankfully, all of what I just mentioned should be on this year's iPhone SE, and we're going to be going through one by one each and every single one of these categories. You know, the screen design, camera, specs, and features, alongside when it will come out, since this could be important knowing when this video is being recorded, edited, and uploaded. So let's start off with the easy shit. What will it look like? What is the design? Now, this phone hasn't really seen a major redesign since 2020. Originally, the iPhone SE had the same design as the iPhone 5S, so it wasn't necessarily technically considered a new design, aside from, I don't know, the rose gold color that it came with. But we really haven't seen, like, you know, that mega redesign that we've seen since the 2020 iPhone SE. This year's iPhone SE is going to be a complete redesign. Think of it as the iPhone 14, but with one camera. If you look at some of the leaks and the renderings of what the iPhone SE is going to look like, it doesn't look like something that, you know, Apple has ever released before. Sure, it might have the same iPhone 14 or rather iPhone 15 design with the boxiness and the rounded corners, but even just looking at it, it looks completely new. And so far, I like where this is going. And this could be for several reasons. One, it has just one camera. We'll get into that. And there's also the addition of an action button, the same action button that was introduced on the 15 Pro and the entirety of the 16 lineup. Now, this is pretty much the most useful feature that I've used on my iPhone. I have one myself. You know, it's this programmable button that replaces the mute switch that you can be able to use aside from putting your phone on silent. You know, you can use it as a flashlight, you could use it to open up the camera, you can even use it to pull up ChatGPT real quickly. Sometimes I use it to turn on Do Not Disturb mode. It's actually pretty useful for what it is, and it's one of my most used features on the 15 Pro that I have. So the iPhone SE will be getting an action button, so you'll be able to do more things aside from muting your phone. You can open up the camera, open ChatGPT, turn on a flashlight, program it to a shortcut. The sky's the limit. And just the convenience of just having this without having to do some extra steps is pretty nifty. So this design, based on the leaks, looks pretty solid. You know, you got the action button. Obviously, you're gonna get MagSafe with this too. One final thing that I also will mention before moving on, it's going to get USB-C charging. Once again, I cannot believe I'm thanking the EU for this change. The organization, if you know me already, that I have some minor odium towards. The iPhone SE will be joining the USB-C club at long last, along with the 15, the 16, the MacBooks, iPads, and pretty much everything else. Best decision Apple has ever done with the iPhone is including USB-C. All Android phones use USB-C to charge. Even most Apple products use USB-C to charge. You know, it's just great and just so much more convenient to have one plug being able to be the standard for literally charging everything. And it's not like that they wanted to. They pretty much had to. The EU wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. The one rare W that the EU gets. Now let's talk about the camera. Another part of this design is that there's only one camera on the iPhone SE. Now with the regular iPhones, there's usually two or maybe even three if you have the Pros. Now I know having one camera is pretty much technically considered a deal breaker since most phones nowadays have at least two cameras, including budget phones. So the fact that the iPhone SE, being that entry-level or at times mid-range level iPhone, it's kind of understandable that it's a little bit disappointing that this phone only comes with one camera. But hear me out. This is actually a pretty good camera. Even though the iPhone SE only has one camera, this camera is a 48 megapixel camera. Now, as someone who actually has used this before and is into videography and photography, this is actually a pretty good camera. Even the 48 megapixel by itself can take the most stunning pictures. It also negates the use of having additional cameras for an ultra-wide and a telephoto lens. So you don't really need these two cameras because it's a high megapixel count, and the way Apple does this, with a combination of hardware and software, you could be able to do like 2 times optical zoom and sometimes even 0.5 optical zoom just with the 148 megapixel camera by itself. I'm pretty sure Apple will figure out a way with the iPhone SE so they won't get left out with the Pros and the regular iPhones. The only thing they can't really do is spatial video because that requires 2 cameras. So I know people are concerned of the lack of cameras, but hear me out. This is a good camera already, and at times, you don't even need multiple cameras just to get a certain zoom level. And as we already see, we can already do portrait mode with just one singular camera. So now that we got the back out of the way, let's flip the phone and focus on the front, the display. Now, for the first time since its existence, the iPhone SE will be getting an OLED display. This will be the first budget-level iPhone that will be getting an OLED display. You know, it's been the standard for literally every iPhone since the iPhone 12 lineup, where literally every iPhone has an OLED display. The iPhone SE obviously has been left in the dust. It's been stuck with LCD displays since it was first announced, but this one thankfully will be getting one. You know, OLED displays are obviously superior over LCD displays. You know, you already get better colors, pictures look a lot more vibrant, and especially because there are no backlights, you actually can get true deep blacks. You know, it doesn't look like this bluish color because of the backlight shining through. No, with an OLED display, you're actually getting a true black colors because the individual subpixels, it emits its own light, so they can turn off and turn on at any time. This is also helpful for battery life too, since you don't have to have this ongoing backlight that is constantly draining battery. So the iPhone SE lineup finally joining the club in the OLED displays. It's going to be a 6.1-inch display, and it will also be the first iPhone SE to come with Face ID, meaning that the iPhone SE will no longer have a home button. So out comes Touch ID, in comes Face ID. Now, people are a little bit split on what's going to be the cutout for the Face ID sensors. Now, there are some reports saying that the iPhone SE is just going to come with a standard notch, and there are other reports that came out saying that the iPhone SE is going to have the dynamic island, just like on the iPhone 14 Pro and the 15 and 16 lineups. While I would love to see the dynamic island on the iPhone SE, it's highly unlikely that we're going to see the dynamic island come to the iPhone SE. I think it's more or less likely that we're going to see the notch rather than the dynamic island. Wishful thinking, it is a pipe dream, but I have my bets on it having a notch rather than a dynamic island. So you're not going to get any of these, like, you know, additional features and these fancy little animations that you get with the dynamic island. So we got a new design, one single 48 megapixel camera. No, it is not capable of shooting 8K video. It's finally getting a full screen OLED display with Face ID, probably dynamic island, although unlikely. It's gonna have the same processor as the iPhone 16. Not gonna talk too much about it. It's already a fast processor for what it is. We saw, like, you know, the benchmarks, and it's basically similar to an Apple M1 at times. That's how powerful it is. So the last thing we're going to be talking about before we talk about pricing and release dates, here's something that the iPhone SE is going to be getting at long last since it's been left out with this feature. 5G will finally be coming to the iPhone SE. Since this phone has literally been left out with it since 2020, it's time for this phone to finally join the club, and it will be this year with its own 5G chip. But there's a little bit of a twist. Now, you see, if you have your own iPhone, obviously an iPhone 12 or newer, if your phone has 5G, chances are the 5G modem in your phone is manufactured by a third party. Qualcomm, I think, manufactures all the 5G modems in the iPhones. For the iPhone SE, it's gonna be a little different. This will be the first ever iPhone to come with its own Apple manufactured 5G modem. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting since, you know, the iPhones, as I mentioned, they all come with their own modem that is manufactured by Qualcomm or Intel or Huawei. Since Apple doesn't really manufacture, you know, literally everything that is found on your device, but with the iPhone SE, this will be the first time Apple's going to be using its in-house 5G modem. For starters, it'd be much cheaper. It's one of the same reasons why Apple moved away from Intel, because it lowered the cost of manufacturing since they don't have have to pay anybody, they can just make their own. And as a result, it lowers the cost of the manufacturing process. And, Apple, they've already had a good reputation with how they design their CPUs. The M series CPUs are already fucking beasts in their own right. The A series chips always outperform the competition. So, the expertise, it's already there. So if they can make a CPU, they can certainly make their own modems. And that's what they're going to be doing with the iPhone SE. And it's rumored that they're also going to be doing it with the iPhone 17 Air as well. That too will be getting this Apple-designed modem. Great way to cut costs on your manufacturing. So basically, I just ran down, sped run everything that we should be expecting with the iPhone SE based on all the leaks and rumors and pretty much everything that we know. Now it's time to talk about release date and pricing. Now, as of this video being recorded and uploaded, there's a chance that the iPhone SE, according to Mark Gurman, should be released today. Yes, by the time this video is uploaded, or as you're watching this video right now, the iPhone SE probably has already been released, so you can already tick off all the boxes on what is confirmed and what was not confirmed in this video already. But if Mark Gurman is right, we should be expecting the iPhone SE to come out today, if not sometime this week. So I'll be sure to update you guys in a future video, showcasing my thoughts and first impressions about it once it officially releases or is announced. Now, pricing, this should be pretty straightforward. The iPhone SE is supposed to be like, the cheaper entry model iPhone, so it should be around the range between $400 and $500. So again, perfect bang for your buck. For literally what you're getting, this is the sweet spot. Oh, and yes, in case you're wondering, it will have Apple Intelligence. So if you want to have Apple Intelligence, but, you can't afford an iPhone 16, this is the perfect phone for you. If you care about Apple Intelligence and want to have all these features, the pricing should be at that sweet spot, $400, $500, that's reasonable. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that we got with the iPhone SE. You got an all-new design with a 6.1-inch full-screen OLED display, the A18 chip. It's going to have 8 gigs of RAM. It's going to come with Apple Intelligence. It's going to have one single 48-megapixel camera. It's going to be the first iPhone with an Apple-designed 5G modem, USB Type-C charging, cost between $400 and $500, $600 at the max, and should be releasing later today. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notifications. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias. Links are in the description below. As always, share this video around with your friends, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, enemies, whomever. Definitely helps me out a lot, helps the video grow, and helps grow the channel if you were to share this with whomever you know. And again, just like what I do at the end of every video, I like to pass the conversation right down to you. Are you excited for the new iPhone XE? What are your expectations? What features do you expect on the iPhone SE? What do you want to see on the iPhone SE? Will you be getting it when it comes out? Again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, as I always pass the conversation down to you. But anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, talk soon, you're awesome.